Hello everyone, and welcome to this tutorial on how to make a Regency era corset. Diana and I are excited to teach you how to make a Regency era corset right here in my home sewing studio, also known as the dining room of my mother's condo. Because you know what they say, one person's sewing studio is another person's dining room they haven't been able to eat in for weeks because it's covered in this damn fabric.
For any project that involves historical construction, I start with finding research images. These are a couple of the ones I used for this project. I wasn't totally faithful to all of the details in them, but I wanted this to be a quicker and easier project so I could move on to making a Regency dress next. The next thing you're going to want to do is drape your corset on your dress form, and that just means pinning the fabric in the shape of the corset and following all the seam lines you see in your research images. For this part, you can use any fabric that you don't care about. I used these scraps from a bedsheet that I had already used to make a Meg costume from when I made my sisters dress up as the characters from Little Women on Christmas. Anyway, when you're done, it should look something like this. Don't worry, I'm going to fill in that gap by the lower hip, and you should have pins in it indicating where you want darts or cuts to be, and then you're going to go over all of those places that there are pins with a marker, pen, pencil, some sort of marking device, and draw lines across them so you know where they are once you take it down. Next, you're going to take out all the pins and take all the fabric down. You might drop a few pins, and then you might have to crawl around on the ground looking for them so your mom doesn't yell you and just have them and her feet hurt. I don't know, maybe. Next, you're going to cut along all of those red lines and separate all of those pieces out, and now you have your pattern pieces. You should lay them out on your pattern paper and transfer them over, or if your pattern paper is in a room where your sister's having a meeting, do it on wrapping paper, and then if you're like me, maybe your girlfriend will text you with some feedback about your poems, and you'll need to answer her to ask a question because she used a big word you don't understand because she's very smart. Anyway, when it's all done, it's going to look like this. Cut all of those pieces out, and it's going to look like this. Then you're going to lay all of those pieces out on your chosen fabric. Mine is a bedsheet from my childhood because I cannot currently leave my house to fabric shop. And maybe you forget to double it up and you have to do it after already having pinned down some of the pieces. That's fine. Just go ahead and do that and pin down all the pieces. Make sure the straight edges are on the grain line. If you don't know what the grain line is, it's not that important. Anyway, this is what it'll look like when it's done. Go through and trace a 1/2 inch away from all of the edges, and that's going to be your seam allowance and the line you should cut on when you cut these out. So that was where I finished for the day, and I didn't work on it the next day because I had to videotape myself reading some of my creative writing pieces for this thing my college was doing online, and here's a little sneak peek of that.
Gay, peanuts, 2 tails and no toes. Gay sex, 97-year-old Habitat for Humanity volunteering, former president and peanut farmer, James Earl Carter Jr. Gay arson, broccoli cheddar soup, maximum scalp. Homosexuality, gay.
Then you're just going to go through and sew all of those pieces together, and should you use pins? Yes, but did I all of the time? No. So, all of the pieces have been sewn together, and Diana is now wearing it. It fits her pretty good. It isn't laced up in the back yet, I just pinned it. But it fits pretty good on her, but I don't know what that means for how it's going to fit me because she's not quite as curvy as I am, who is. So I still have to try it on. I'm back and I am wearing shorts now. So I just tried this on in the bathroom because there's a lot of windows in this room and it fits pretty good, but it actually fits too well because if you've ever made a corset, you know that you actually want them to be like a hug from an aunt you haven't seen in a long time, a little too tight. So I am going to just take a little bit out of the back to make sure that it really, really feels like I am a sausage when I wear it. And then I'm going to put boning in for structure. So now I feel like I should take a second and tell you that usually when I'm making something like this for class or work, I'll drape it, take that down, cut out those pieces, transfer them to paper, transfer those onto a mock-up fabric, make a mock-up version, mark down changes, transfer those changes to the paper, make a new paper version, put that paper on my final fabric, and then make a final version. And sometimes there'll even be a second mock-up in there, but I didn't feel like doing all of that this time because there was no one to make me, and I wasn't getting graded or paid. So I just did not. If you don't go through the mock-up process, it's possible that not all of your pieces will line up perfectly, but if they don't, you can just use this very advanced method of snipping until they do. So this is the kind of boning I have. It comes in this spiral situation because cheap boning is like expensive cheese. It comes in wheels and is perforatable by your needle. That's right. This is sew-throughable boning, so you don't have to make a boning channel for it. Your needle can just sew it directly to your fabric. It's not as strong as normal boning, but it is what I was able to procure during this pandemic, so this is what we're working with. Alright, I have a confession. It wasn't impossible to procure better boning. This was just cheap.
So this is what the inside of the corset looks like, all laid out flat. This white stuff on the inside is the sew-throughable boning, and I just went over it with a zigzag stitch to hold it in place. You can see it on the other side, but the thread blends in, and because this is an undergarment, I'm not too worried about it. So I am here on the floor of my bathroom to work on the Regency corset, and you might be wondering, Julia, why are you on the floor of the bathroom? And that is because I'm going to use this tile as a surface to pound grommets. So I have my grommets, I have a mallet, and I have a towel. But when I came in here to do this, I noticed that my pajamas are still on the counter, and that is because my sister had class at 9 a.m. so I slept on the couch because we share a room and I didn't want to wake up that early. But then it was 10:30 and I was trying to get ready for my class at 11, and I realized that I had no way to get my clothes but to army crawl underneath her camera while she was on Zoom and army crawl back out with clothes, and then I changed in the bathroom and left my clothes there. If you're wondering if I had some sort of stand to put my computer on to film this, I didn't. It's on a box of tampons in a drawer. So, I have made these little tiny holes on all of the marks. I drew marks. They are 1.5 inches apart, running right next to this bone that is right along the center back seam, and we're going to put grommets in them. And the reason you need this bone here is because if you put in grommets and you don't have a bone, then they will just tear right out of the fabric. The bone sort of anchors them in place.
So this is how putting in grommets works. You take the hole in your fabric and you take 2 halves of a grommet. You got a long half and a flat half. You take the long half and that goes on the outside. So you poke it through the hole, so it's coming through the other side, and then you put it on your little grommet stand thing. So you put the stick of the stand up through the hole, and then you're going to take one of your flat guys, put it on the top, and then you're going to take this stick guy, put it over, and then you hit it with a mallet, and that bends the metal until it is pinching tightly, and you have a grommet sandwich. And then you repeat that a lot of times.
While you're watching me put in all 24 grommets that this project took, I think now would be a great time to tell you that there used to be this really fancy Grommet Puncher in the costume shop I worked at, and it had like a lever and it was a big thing that sat on a table, and I broke it like 3 times because I kept putting the wrong stuff in it and then pushing down really, really hard and then breaking all of the knobs on it. And I never got in trouble for that.
But it did feel really bad, so sorry, Lauren.
So I finished putting in all the grommets, laced it up with a corset cord that I borrowed, stole from another corset I had made, and it's looking pretty good. I think the top edge needs to come in a little bit, right where it meets the straps, but that's a pretty easy fix, and other than that, I'm pretty pleased with the fit, so I'm just going to go through and hem all of the rough edges so that it has a finished look, and take care of that one little alteration with the straps, and it's going to be done.
So then I did a rolled hem around all of the raw edges, and that just means that you fold it over once, then you fold it over again, and you sew on top, and you're technically supposed to measure that, but I don't, because when you've done enough of them, you can just do them without that, I guess, is the rule.
So here I am modeling the final product by a piano because that felt fun and Regency-y. And I actually did wind up going back after I put the rolled hem in and putting in additional bust gussets and then gathering the front neckline. And I did that just to create a better fit around the bust, and I didn't film it because, well, that would have just been a lot of footage of my cleavage and I didn't want to get demonetized on my first video. Or am I monetized? How do you monetize? Also, thank you to my sister Paige for lacing this up for me, because as we all know, corsets are like field trips in 2nd grade. Everybody needs a buddy.